Hey everyone, welcome back to That's Cakeable. I'm Janine, and today is the day of love. That's right, it's Valentine's Day, and I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to veer away from the chocolates and the roses and hearts, and so after much deliberation, I decided on a lobster.
A lobster.
Some of you may already understand why I chose a lobster, but for those of you that aren't fans of the show Friends, let's throw it all the way back 22 years ago to 1996, season 2, the one with the prom video. I'll let Phoebe explain.
It's a known fact that lobsters fall in love and mate for life. And you know what? You can actually see old lobster couples walking around their tank, holding claws. You have to picture lobsters. See? He's her lobster.
Yep, so that's why I chose a lobster. I even got a t-shirt to commemorate. Anyway, on with the video. I hope you guys really enjoy. Alright, so to fill this cake I had to use a slightly different method. So I took some pink ganache and I poured it out onto a tray, chucked it in the freezer, and then once it was out of the freezer, I cut heart shapes out of the ganache that were the same as the heart shapes in the cake. I placed the heart shape on the cake over the heart, and I just built up my white chocolate ganache around that. Now, you have to do both sides of the cake, line them up, and then sandwich them together. Otherwise, you'll compromise the integrity of the pattern when you cut into the cake. I took a circle cutter and I cut a guideline around the top of my cake that was about 1/2 inch smaller than the top of my cake. And then I took my paring knife using that guide and I cut about 1/2 inch into the cake. Flip the cake upside down, and then I pop some more ganache on the top. Now I used a stainless steel bowl to make a bowl-shaped cake, and I popped that on the top and then just carved it down to line it up with the other cakes. Now we start carving our shape. We need to carve downwards towards that line that we've previously made as our guide. And as you're cutting down, make sure you cut sort of rounded. We want almost like a light bulb sort of shape. Now we round out the top just a little bit. I'm just using a small serrated knife for this. Now choose which side you want to be the bottom of your cake and cut a slice of cake starting from about 2 inches from the top on an angle towards the base of the cake, which will give you a flat surface to lay your cake on. Round the top of that cake out, and now we're adding it to the board. Now don't do what I did and put it too close to the front of the board, or there's no room for his claws. I had to move it later. I gave it a quick crumb coat using my acetate smoother to get around all of those edges. Okay, I used some more stainless steel bowls to make 4 of these 3-inch vanilla cakes. I took 2 of them and simple syrup them, filled them with ganache, and then placed a skewer through the center. Carved down those edges to make sure that they match up, just like we did with our first cake, and then gave them a similar shape to the first one, just slightly more rounded and squat. Gave that a quick crumb coat with some ganache also, and set that one aside to chill. I do the same with another 2 of those cakes, making this one slightly smaller, and I'm using the other cakes as a guide to see whether they fit, whether I like the size. Just eyeballed a lot of it. Ganache that and chilled that also. Now we're making the last part of the body. I decided to use some cake clay for this, so I've used some of my leftover pink strawberry cake from my peekaboo cake, added some pink ganache, and squashed it up into an amazing cake clay. It's like cake pop mixture. Now I'm adding all of these together. I pulled some of that skewer out to pop it into the body. Did that with both of the smaller parts, and now I'm adding my cake clay to make his buttocks. As you can see, it molds beautifully just like clay, hence the name cake clay. I use more of that cake clay to round the rest of the body out, and then I use my modelling tools so that we keep the shape of the body intact. And there he is, all ready for a quick crumb coat. And then we're going to chill him for a moment using that acetate smoother again. And then we come back after he's chilled with the crumb coat and add our final coat of ganache. The acetate smoother makes sure that we get all those lines, and don't forget to get into all those grooves so that we don't lose the shape of his body along the way. If you want to know how to make my peekaboo cake, just pop over to my website at that'scakeable.com and you'll find out all the goss there. I rolled out a piece of 50-50 ganache and modelling chocolate that I'd coloured a corally sort of orange colour, laid that over the top of the entire cake and smoothed that out primarily with my hands because of all the curves and stuff, so don't be scared of using your hands as a tool, they are awesome. Making sure I get in and don't lose those little ridges in his body. And I cut off the excess with my pizza wheel, smoothing it with my acetate smoother. Then I go around with my paring knife to take off the excess and use a modelling tool just to push the rest of the fondant underneath him. I take some of the amazing Sugarworks sugar shapers to even out those grooves, and now we're going to go and make his claws. So I've taken a styrofoam ball, a 46ml styrofoam ball, and cut it in half, taken 2 pieces of my modelling chocolate / fondant, and I'm curving it around the top of that ball as a mould, slightly pointing the front for his claw. Now, what I didn't show was that I used an X-Acto blade to cut out sort of squiggly lines on either side of those claws and left it there to set for a while. Now to make the bottom claw, I'm taking another styrofoam ball the same size and just indenting a good sized chunk of that modelling chocolate and fondant. I lean it on its base and squash it upwards and pop the top on top of the bottom, and there's his little claws. I was going to say little claws, they're quite big. To attach the claws, I just used a bit of royal icing in an orange colour and attached the top to the bottom, and there they are. Now we need the arms to attach the claws. So I've taken a piece of fondant, rolled it into a tapered sausage, and then angled one end of it so that it fits around the back of the claw. Took another piece of fondant and rolled that into a teardrop shape, angled that slightly and pushed that on the top of the first piece of fondant. And they are ready. Now we have to make all the other legs. So it's very similar, just tapered pieces of fondant, then a teardrop piece of fondant, long teardrop, same thing, cut them, lean them up against the cake too to make sure that they fit in, and add the other teardrop shape by cutting that on an angle and attaching that to the first piece of fondant. Because there's modelling chocolate in this fondant, it attaches to itself without water. It's just chocolate attaching to chocolate. And there they are. I look like I'm at a crayfish bar or something. To make the tail, I took a teardrop piece of fondant, a very large teardrop piece of fondant, flattened that out, and then just took my sugar shaper and made an indent in the top to make a love heart shape. Love is in the air, everywhere I look around. I flattened out the base and the sides and set that aside to dry also. Now let's attach those legs. Just a bit of royal icing, a bit of firm pressure, and there they are. Attaching the tail, bit of royal icing on his backside, push that tail up, and I just popped a skewer in there to support it while it dried. Cracking out the airbrush, woohoo! Okay, so I used a few different colours on this guy. Just a really light spray of ivory initially, then some orange, and then I went in with the red to deepen him up into those grooves where the shading is, and it makes all the difference. Don't be scared of your airbrush. It's your best friend once you learn how to use it. Just practice, you'll get it. To make the eyes, I took some more of those same size styrofoam balls, 46ml, covered them in some piping gel, and then I just took some white fondant rolled out reasonably thinly, and I covered that ball just easing it down to the base slowly. And then when you get to the bottom, just cut off the excess with your X-Acto, or your blade, or your knife, your paring knife. And then I just use the heat from the palm of my hands to smooth that out. Pop that aside, and now we go on to making the stalks for his eyes. I took some wire and just put some of my fondant over that wire after I had rolled it into a snake. Keep rolling it out further until it's slightly thinner. And then I popped that in the freezer for about 5 minutes so that I could bend it without squishing my fondant. I made 2 the same, of course. And there they are, ready for his eyes. Continuing on his eyes now, I've taken some of the same coloured fondant, cut out a big circle and chucked that on the back of his eye, and I've popped the stalk into the bottom of his eye and attached it with that fondant. To make his eyeball, I cut out some black fondant into a circle and threw it slightly off centre just to give him a bit more character. I used some piping gel to attach that, smooth that over, and then cut off the excess with my X-Acto blade. And then I've run the orange fondant once again through a fettuccine machine and used that as his eyelid. Put some piping gel on, attached that all the way around, and then took another piece of that same fondant through the fettuccine machine just to finish off the base to make it look a bit neater. A quick little catch light in his eyes finishes that off. Now I just pop those stalks into his head, wrap a little bit more fondant around the base just to tidy it up. For his mouth, I rolled out a tiny little piece of fondant, put it onto his little face and put a little bit of confectioner's glaze on there to shine it up. Cut out 3 different sizes of spots and pop them on, and there he is. You're my lobster. How beautiful is that? Now comes the true test. I didn't know if this would work until I did this. And ta-da! Well guys, that's it for this week, and I hope you really enjoyed watching me put this little guy together. Of course you could make it for any occasion, but you know, it is the day of love. Whatever you're doing today, wherever you are, I hope you have a fantastic day. If you're celebrating Valentine's Day, happy Valentine's Day. Don't forget to head over to my website, that's cakeable.com, to check out all the other tips and tricks, including how I made my peekaboo cake. And please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel and press the little notification bell down the bottom so you don't miss anything that's coming up, and there'll be plenty coming up, I guarantee it. Okay guys, thanks again for joining me, and I will see you next week. Bye.